Greetings, intrepid environmental biologists. Welcome back. This is Dr. Jared Rathel, and today I'm really excited. I think this is a truly special story that definitely tugs on the heartstrings a bit. The title of my presentation to you today is called Koko's Kitten. It's about a new paradigm, a shift in the way scientists think about ethology, about animal behavior. But before we get into that, let's start with a couple of very amazing individuals. One is human and one is a non-human primate. Koko is a female western lowland gorilla. She was born in captivity in 1971 in the San Francisco Zoo. When Koko was about a year old, she embarked on a very special and long-running science experiment, initially quarterbacked by Dr. Francine Patterson, who at that time was a doctoral student at Stanford University. But what Dr. Patterson did was systematically teach Koko sign language and how to understand the spoken English language. So here we have Dr. Patterson and Koko and Michael. Michael is a male gorilla who eventually joins the fray. And so you gotta start simple, like being able to hear. She's got a clicker there, being able to taste. But as Koko grew, her vocabulary expanded. Here we have browse, bite. I would hate to be bit by that jaw. Hair barrette. All told, Koko was eventually able to sign for over 1,000 signs in American Sign Language. And it's reported that she understood over 2,000 words spoken in English. Things like apple and baby, love, mother. One of the signs that she picked up very early on, reportedly, was the universal sign for being angry with someone. So, as in any good science, there is healthy skepticism and debate about how much language contextually and conceptually Koko actually grasped. Here she is creating art. But a couple of interesting anecdotes. Number one, she scored between 70 and 95 on a variety of human IQ tests. She would tell fibs or lies, exaggerations, counter statements in order to get a humorous response from her caregivers. And then perhaps most convincingly, she had this ability to create words from putting together signs when she lacked the appropriate sign. So for example, she wanted a ring that you put on your finger. Didn't have a sign for ring, so she signed finger and bracelet. So this is when it gets interesting. In Christmas 1983, Koko begins signing to Dr. Patterson and her caregivers that she wants a kitten. Reluctant to give a massive lowland gorilla a baby kitten, the researchers gave her a stuffed toy to which Koko continually signed sad. On her birthday, she was given her wish. There was a litter of abandoned kittens, and Koko selected to adopt this gray Manx kitten right here, which she, for lack of better words, loved tremendously, treated it as if it were a baby. So she named this little kitten All Ball, all A-L-L, B-A-L-L, All Ball, presumably because of its propensity to roll up and sleep in a ball. About a year after she gets All Ball, it gets hit by a car. and Koko goes into a deep state of mourning, signing sad again, and crying, wailing, showing a sense of loss. Koko, throughout her life, ends up adopting many kittens. This little gray one here she named Smokey. This little orange one she called Lipstick. These are all names that they asked, what should we name the kitten? Lipstick because red, orange, like lips. So very, very remarkable project. And just one, Project Koko is just one of a number of long-term studies that are looking at animal communication in the great apes, with chimpanzees and the pygmy chimpanzee, the bonobo, with... Hi, excuse me, quick costume change. So primates, using sign language is obviously a learned behavior. But it raises the old nature versus nurture argument. That is to say, when we observe animals exhibiting certain behaviors, have they been learned through experience, or are they genetically hardwired? So a fixed action pattern is certainly an example of a behavior that is innate, that's encoded by genes. A fixed action pattern is a sequence of unlearned acts directly linked to a particular stimulus. So consider when this herring gull chick here pecks at this red spot on the bill of one of its parents. It inevitably induces the parent to regurgitate a meal for the chick. So herring gull chicks will peck at the red dots on their parents' beaks without any prior training. In fact, a baby herring gull can even be tricked with a yellow stick adorned with a red dot. It will peck at the stick just as eagerly as it pecks at mom or dad's bill. Migration is another example of animals. Birds, butterflies, fish, humpback whales, responding to environmental cues like perhaps a change in photo period, the length of the day, to embark upon these regular long-distance changes in location. European honeybees returning to their hives communicate the distance and the direction of food sources. So if the nectar is close by, say within like 50 meters, the bee dances around in these tight circles, letting its nestmates know that nectar is nearby. After decades of observations, researchers recognize that when food is further away beyond this approximately 50-meter threshold, the bees will communicate using a waggle dance. And researchers recognize that the angle of this straight line run conveys the angle of the nectar source relative to the sun's position. The longer the straight run, the more abdominal wags, the greater the distance. So moving on to imprinting. So this is an example of both innate behavioral components like fixed action patterns, migration, honeybee dances. But here we also have a learned component. So in imprinting, there is a sensitive period, a critical period during the animal's development where they establish this long-lasting behavioral response initiated to a particular individual or an object. So here the baby Canada geese have imprinted on a parent, whereas these baby grayling geese here have imprinted on the famous ethologist Konrad Lorenz. Here we've got the critically endangered whooping cranes. Researchers had them imprint on this small aircraft this fan-powered hang glider to assist them in their long migration from the Texas Gulf Coast up to the Northwest Territories in Canada. So learning often entails making these associations between experiences. Consider the blue jay, who consumes the aposematic or brightly colored monarch butterfly and learns the hard way that it's poisonous. So it learns to associate those striking bright colors with a stomach ache, associative learning. The most complex form of learning requires cognition, the process of knowing that involves awareness, reasoning, recollection, and then some judgment. So we once thought that only primates and marine mammals were capable of cognition, but we now recognize that the nervous systems from across the animal kingdom, like this parrot, are capable of solving multi-step problems. So perhaps it might be time to rethink the moniker bird brain. So many animals learn to solve problems by observing the behavior of other individuals. We see this social learning with bottlenose dolphins in Shark Bay, Australia, who have been observed covering their beaks with sponges that they collect, their basket sponges torn from the seafloor. That way, when they forage for food, they can push them into the sand and uncover buried fish. And then the sponge protects their snouts from the abrasive sand. Researchers say this behavior seems to be passed down from mother to daughter dolphin. We know that chimpanzees, thanks to the pioneering work of Dr. Jane Goodall, are adept tool users. So chimps will select and then further modify just the right stick to go fishing for chimpanzees. Here we have an orangutan using a broad palm leaf as an umbrella. So this social learning forms the roots of animal culture. By culture, I mean a system of information that transfers from one generation to the next, from one population to the next, that has this wide-ranging influence on behavior. So the famed primatologist Frans de Waal argues that morality, the difference between right and wrong, is actually built into our species. So rather than coming from some top-down external source, morality for de Waal springs bottom up from our emotions and our day-to-day social interactions, which themselves evolved from the foundation of these animal cultures. So, as an example, consider how empathy, that is, putting yourself in another individual's shoes, seeing it from their perspective, think about how that would evolve from regular acts of reciprocity, like grooming in primates. So, I mean, I hate to anthropomorphize, to put human emotions on an animal, but it sure looks like that is enjoyable. It sure looks like that feels good. And as Frans de Waal points out, our morality, our sense of right and wrong, is unthinkable without empathy. It's rooted in empathy, thinking beyond ourselves. So back in 2001, the comedian Robin Williams visited the Gorilla Foundation in California and met with Koko. During their encounter, Williams, was himself. He had a great time. Koko and he laughed, they tickled, they hugged like old friends. Williams wrote, "I recently had a mind-altering experience communicating with a gorilla. We shared something extraordinary, laughter. Koko understands spoken English and uses over 1,000 signs to share her feelings and thoughts about daily events, life, love, even death. It was awesome and unforgettable." when Koko learned of Robin Williams' recent passing, she apparently became extremely sad, and she mourned for her friend. So Koko recently passed away herself a few months ago, but her story lives on through you and I. So thanks for your time. Hope you learned something.